as God is my witness, I was never expecting calculus in War and Peace, and I am not joking. This is in part 10 or part 11, after we've had all the action at the Battle of Borodino, and before everyone's going to be fleeing Moscow. But this is also kind of as far as Napoleon gets into Russia and ends up having to retreat. So this is like at the beginning of September 1812, and he'll be retreating. So where did the calculus come in? It's an extended analogy that Tolstoy is using. And he starts with Zeno's paradox of Achilles and the tortoise. I'm going to give a version of it. So let's just say Achilles starts 10 meters in front of the tortoise. And the difference of speed, so Achilles is 10 times as fast as the tortoise is. So we have a lead of 10 meters for the tortoise. And after however long it takes Achilles to cross his first 10 meters, the tortoise advances 1 meter. Okay, fine. Then Achilles is going to do the additional meter, and in that time, the tortoise goes 1/10 of a meter, and so forth. This is a geometric series, and Zeno used these, and there were a couple other ones. Zeno used these paradoxes to argue that basically motion is an illusion or something like that. I don't really understand. But as Tolstoy mentions, calculus solved this, that you can add 10 plus 1 plus 1/10 plus 1/100th, etc., and you get a finite number, and that you will end up with infinitesimal. And yeah, Newton went the infinitesimal route, and I think, well, okay, anyway, I'm not going to get into non-standard analysis here, especially with War and Peace. Anyway, he starts with this calculus analogy, and you're like, why is he bringing this up? And he talks about differential calculus, integral calculus. So they're two parts of something that makes a whole. And he is arguing there needs to be differential and integral history. What does that mean? He is poo-pooing, he's throwing contempt on the great man theory of history, which is that, you have key events, key people, and that really explains what's going on in history. He is saying that you have, loads, all of the people have a little part to play. He has a point. You can have great men. You can have great men like Napoleon and Winston Churchill, for example. And if it's not the right time, they can't get people to follow them. I mean, Churchill is the best example. Napoleon, well, I'll talk about Napoleon as a character of War and Peace later. The big argument that Tolstoy is making, and kind of by including Napoleon as a character, he's making this point as well, is that there are loads of things that are feeding into this. So one of the things that he talks about in the invasion of Russia is the response of the peasantry, of the serfs. And some of them are taking advantage of the situation to make demands on the landowners, or they don't trust the landowners. The war part, I'm just going to say, I like the war parts of this novel much better than the peace parts. The peace parts really don't seem to feed into the war parts. I'm sorry. And what the points Tolstoy has to make about history is definitely backed up with what he has to say in the war parts in terms of the confusion of war, how little control the characters have over events, even Napoleon. And that's one of his, there's several chapters on that, of Napoleon thinking he controls events. And nope, he did not. That said, I was so surprised. The farther along I get in this novel, the more items surprise me, because you think, oh, I have my cast of characters, we have our themes, etc., etc. But every so often he pulls out something like this. I was not expecting calculus. Oh, and by the way, he throws in physics for good measure and talks about an inverse square law at some point with regards to the armies. I thought that was pushing it a bit. Anyway. So next time I'm going to try to get at one of the other characters. Hi.